Hello, everyone. We're just
We
getting
said
ready.
we were going to say greetings.
Oh, sorry. Greetings,
I completely
everyone.
forgot about it until we said it, until we started. God damn it. Next time.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings, dear viewers.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I've got bit of cold,
Have you?
bit of a cold and bit cold because it's
You
bloody
look all
January.
cozy mosey in your scarf. Scarf matches your jumper. Scarf matches
Yeah,
your glasses, even. Don't
yes,
even know what I'm saying.
yeah. It's January, isn't it? We can be forgiven. And you're in week 2 of your new job, so
Week 2 of my new job. Very exciting new job. Got lots of exciting things to share at a later date with everyone about my exciting new job. And it's very, it's very good.
but your brain is fried, I
It's
imagine.
completely fried, yeah. I'm an old bird trying to learn new things, so I think old dog learning new tricks. You can learn new tricks, an old dog can learn new tricks, so,
I'm saying nothing because if whatever answer I give is sort of buying into that, and you're not,
no.
but you are learning new tricks, so it's very exciting. And
Yeah.
yes, I love all the updates that you give to me. So you'll have to share them
I will
once
do.
you're allowed to, or know if you're
Yes,
allowed to or not, because you don't want
yes.
to get in trouble.
It makes it sound very exciting, like I'm some sort of spy or something, I'm not. So, yeah, there we go. Everyone knows it's just, new job, new sector, so yes, I will share at a later stage, but yeah. So what are we
Yeah.
gonna talk about today?
Right, we're going to talk about a few things. You're going to talk to us about the operating theatre, which
Yes.
isn't as scary as it sounds.
No.
Dr. Owen Emerson's course,
Please.
the lovely smelling Dr. Owen Emerson's course that we've been doing this week. And we're going to talk about books because why
We
wouldn't
always
we?
do.
I've also watched a Nuremberg film, so I want to discuss my views and soapbox about
Okay.
that with you,
Get ready,
please.
viewers, she'll be on her soapbox, she will
Yeah.
be.
I need to buy an actual soapbox so I can stand on it. Yeah. Speaker's corner. I could have that in my house.
Yeah.
But first of all, we were going to talk about the operating theatre because
Yes.
oh, you sent me a couple of photos, so I want to hear all about it now.
Yeah, I'll put a couple of photos up here, but it is in Southwark, which coincidentally we are going to next weekend for another course of ours. Because obviously we went to a course last year at Southwark Cathedral for a little
Yeah.
um history summit. No, what was it called?
Festival.
Festival. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Organised by organised by the lovely Nicola Tallis, friend of the show. And that was amazing, and we had a great time there, and it was a wonderful venue, and we are going back this weekend coming, to go to see, another thing, which we've spoken about before, about the Six Wives of Henry VIII. But just round the corner from Southwark, when I was in the district recently, I decided to pop in and see the old operating theatre because I'd heard about it, and it's a museum, and it's a very tiny museum, but it's fascinating, and it is one of those ones where you can go for a quick mooch around if you're at loose end and you just want to go to, it's not big, it's not fancy, but it's atmospheric and quite wonderful. And it's just around the corner from Southwark, and it is basically an apothecary, a herb garret. So for an
Herb
apothecary,
Garret.
a herb garret. So basically, it was part of the old St Thomas's Hospital before St Thomas's Hospital moved locations. Actually, the Herb Garret and the operating theatre is actually at the top of St Thomas's Church. So to get to it, you have to go up this twisty staircase, and they have
Yes.
like a light system that it's a green and red light system because there's no room. It's literally tiny. And you have to wait until you've got a green light to be able to go up. And it's quite, I tried to film it and I was just like, there's just no way. Because it was just so, I'm a big girl and it's a small space and it was just not going to work. And, but anyway, get to the top and then you walk through and it is literally up in the attic of this tower of the
Hmm.
church. And you walk in and it's where the original store was for drying all the herbs for the apothecary. I can't say it. Apothecary. Apothecary.
Curry.
Yes.
It's a
So it
great
was
word.
like all the
So
say again.
I said it's a hard word. It's hard to say,
Well,
but it's a great.
yes, especially for me. And apothecary. And yeah, so you walk in, and it's the first thing. It still smells. It still smells of like, I mean, so it's all set up, still looking like how it was in days of yore. And you've got like bundles of herbs. You've got herbs everywhere, and like glass.
Are they still sort of doing stuff there then? Is it still
No,
working? No, it's
no,
just all
it's just
museum.
like a museum for it there. And they have wonderful volunteers there who were fantastic at telling us lots of information. But yeah, you've got like dusty beams, oak beams, and like sunlight streaming in, and like all the herbs and all the like things that they have, you know, all the botanicals and all the little bundles of this, that, and the other, which they would have used in days of yore, because obviously pre medicine, modern medicine, that's what they would have had to use. So it's fascinating. So you walk into that and you kind of like see all that and you're like, oh wow, this is like lovely. And then you walk around the corner and you get to the actual old operating theatre, which is what you would see. You know, you see these things in films and stuff, like days of yore. You've got like the semicircular with the kind of tiered kind of
Yeah,
standing, and you've got like the
which
railings, and you're like
everyone can
standing
watch.
so everyone can watch. So yeah, so it's exactly like that. I mean, it was a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. It's still big, but it's smaller than you think it is. When you're there, you can sort of like feel like what exactly like how it would have been back then to be in
Well,
such a
I just think of like Mary Shelley and Frankenstein
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
Jekyll and Hyde,
yeah.
and when people used to, yeah, or when you were learning to be a doctor, that's sort of one of the lectures you would have gone to, and
Yes,
people
even
had to
then.
donate their, and didn't they used to use like criminal bodies to
Yes,
dissect and things like that,
yeah.
uh, and then
Cadavers.
oh yeah, and then they would do there was all the body snatching. Is it Burke and Hare, the old body
Yes,
snatchers,
love
who
that.
used to go and then sell the bodies to medical science, and
Yeah, love that. Love
yeah,
that side.
is it really Victorian then? When was it built?
So 1822-ish, I think it was. And it was actually, and so it is now still the oldest surviving theatre. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, the oldest surviving theatre. But it was, this is the weird bit. So back in the day, it's the women's theatre. It's not the men's theatre. The men's had a theatre somewhere else, but the women didn't have a theatre because obviously you can't, well, you didn't, both sexes can't use the same theatre back in those days.
Thank
So the women
goodness.
didn't have a theatre. So they're at the back of the operating theatre, there was a door, and the door went through to the women's ward. And so it was kind of like made sense that actually, you know, the patients would come in and they would have that. But before that, the women used to get operated on. And generally, when we're saying operating, it would be you'd be cutting off a limb type thing, because it was quite limited what they were operating on back then. They would, you know, just didn't know what to do and stuff. So it's basically cutting off limbs and doing this, that, and the other. But they used to just do it in the ward. But obviously, that wasn't great for everyone else. A little bit disruptive to sort of like lie there and go,
Yeah,
oh,
you're next,
poor Nancy's just had a lower leg taken off. Do you know what I mean?
please.
So yeah. So they created this thing that's beautiful. It's got like, so, you know, no electricity, clearly, because it was before that time. So they've got this massive skylight at the top, which obviously allowed them to do it, to have all this light coming through. And I'll put some pictures up, but it was very evocative, I would say. And you can just imagine, you know, it would have been like, you know, the operating theatre, there would be blood everywhere, there'd be sawdust all over the floor, kind of, you know, sponging up all the contents of one's body that's fallen off or fallen out or whatever. But at a time when there was no antiseptic or no
Oh,
anaesthetic and no nothing, and they've got a whole range of instruments which literally just look very torturous and like instruments of torture.
that is only like 200 years ago. That boggles my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just been, well, me and Matt have just watched the first episode of, it's on Netflix. I can't remember the title of it, something to do with lightning. And it's about James Garfield, who was the 20th president of America.
I binge watched it last week. Yeah.
Well, I only watched 2 episodes and it was brilliant. But of course, because I'm nosy and can't wait, I was then trying to read about what happened. And of course, he is shot in the July, but he doesn't die until
Yes.
like September.
Yeah.
And I was reading about James Garfield, this poor guy, and basically they got like when he was shot, and he was shot in the, I think, from the back,
Yes, he
and they
was.
came in and they were like trying to dig around with their
Yeah.
hands, everyone's hands inside him,
Yeah.
trying to dig out and find the bullet. And then later on, when it's obviously infected, they're then squeezing all the crap out of him and trying to make him better, which of course is making it worse because there's loads of people, nobody washed their hands and stuff. And actually they were saying if that happened today, he would have been not just saved, but he would have been out of hospital in like 2 or 3 days because it would have been quite straightforward.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my God, that poor guy had like a long lingering death
Yeah. He really
because
did.
they didn't know these, like the basic facts that is so important to us now.
Yeah. It was interesting that, am I allowed to say? Because you basically looked at the story and you
Yeah,
know
I
what the
know what
story is
happened.
anyway.
Yeah.
But spoiler alerts, but yeah, it was, you see that when it happens, you obviously in the thing. It's actually only 4 episodes.
Yeah.
The thing's actually only
Yeah.
4 episodes. So actually it was really good. And Matthew McFadden is
He,
absolutely amazing. And he is like, I mean, even when you watch the next 2, he is more crackers in the next 2 as well. And yeah, he's very good. But yeah, so when you see it, you will see that they do. When he was first shot in the train station, there was a doctor there, but because the doctor was black, and at that time it was all like, "Oh no, you can't touch the president, you can't do it." And they were like, he was like, "Well, he's going to die if I don't." So he is allowed to tend to the president, but then the presidential surgeon then turns up, or doctor turns up, and he's just like, being very pompous and being very, I know I'm in control, I know what I'm doing. And the other doctor is sort of like saying, have you heard about these new developments in medicine? And we're in Europe, they're saying don't do that, but you're doing that. Wash your hands. And like, he was like basically saying, don't do what you're doing, but he continues to do what he's doing, literally. And you see it rummaging around and like doing all this stuff. But yeah, he's totally doing that. And then there's one point where he cuts him open again. And then and he's like, oh, that's good, healthy looking pus. You're like, that's a contradiction, isn't it? But there we go. We'll go with
this
it.
is
And
what you're
then,
saying.
ultimately, we know that he died of sepsis, and actually does say in the docu. I mean, I guess it's a docudrama, is it? Is that what you call it? No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
more of a drama, but like
Yeah.
it's based,
Based on
reality.
fact. Yeah.
And he does definitely say at the end, would he have died if he had just been patched up and led to go, and the bullet
Yeah.
stayed in there, he would have survived.
It's because he's only about 49. It's
Yeah.
so sad. And he had, there were a lot of drawings on Wikipedia and other websites about like because his wife was getting over malaria. So that was crap. And
Yes.
so they're all like, there's lots of drawings of all his family living, like keeping vigil and stuff. But
Yeah.
like, just awful. And I think,
Awful. I never knew
yeah,
anything about him before, actually. But yeah.
no, they say because he was only actually president from June,
Yeah.
and then he was shot in like July, so he didn't do much. But the stuff he did do was sort of a lot of civil rights for Black people as well,
Yes.
because he fought
Yeah.
alongside them
Yeah.
in the War of Independence and stuff. So he obviously was clearly quite a good
Good
guy.
guy.
It was really interesting. The fact that he hadn't actually put himself up to run for president, and everyone voted for him anyway. Quite liked it. It is a really good program. And Nick Offerman, who I love, he's
I
amazing.
love, yeah.
Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation,
Yeah.
or Nick Offerman, who I love, he's in it. He's really good, and because he becomes the president after Chester Arthur. And then Michael Shannon is James Garfield. Yeah, so yeah, very good. But what you talking about the operating theatre? Because when I did GCSE history, and I think it's still part of, at least on one of the things that you can do GCSE wise, is the history of medicine. It was one of the things, and it still is, as far as I know. And I remember that you talk about all this history and all this stuff going on, and about the humours, the 4 humours, which was such a big part of history for
Yeah.
centuries, which is crazy, and how everything was about balancing. So stuff that they got fundamentally wrong that we know these days, they immediately got wrong because of this. It's about balancing the humours and bleeding.
Yeah.
And stuff, and women who are melancholy, which was most women from the sounds of it, it was all about, well, bleed them a bit and they'll be a bit
Yeah,
happier.
that'd be fine.
If you stick a few leeches on, that does make you happier, doesn't it?
That'll do. Interesting you should say about Leeches, because they had Leeches at this old operating theatre, and I didn't know that actually they still use Leeches to this day. I had no idea about it. This lovely volunteer was telling me. She said that yeah, there's a guy in Wales. He has a leech farm. I went, what? what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, he specifically breeds leeches for for medicine, so that he like sends them out across the world because they're specific leeches. And he's like, apparently one of the only ones that does it, and it's a roaring trade. I was just like, blimey, who knew? Like, you know, and they'll put them on. I think there's a specific thing that leeches are nowadays used for, and in comparison to letting a wound heal on its own, it takes away whatever it needs to take away, and the healing time afterwards is like,
Yeah, super
God knows
fast.
how many folds quicker. And I was just like, wow, there's something in that, isn't there?
Do they use leeches in this country?
Yes.
Must look up what it is so that I avoid
Yeah.
that happening to me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because I was like, no, don't be silly. She was like, no, 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 honestly, she does. I was like, well, unless she wouldn't be fibbing. She's like there to do her
She's
job.
a
So yeah,
volunteer, so she's a
taking volunteer.
volunteer
She's a
and
very
everything.
professional lady. And she was fascinating. It was very good.
It's like films where usually somebody is stranded somewhere and then someone
Yeah.
gets something
Yeah.
gapingly wound open and they put
Yeah.
maggots and wrap it in leaves and
Yes.
stuff. And then they unwrap it, it's magically healed, and you're like, bleh.
Perfect. Not a scar or anything.
Not a scar or anything. It's things that we naturally found. Because you think, who, like, at some point, there was the first person who went, oh, look at this leech, and look at
Yes.
this person who needs some bloodletting.
Yeah.
Put them together. Like, whose idea was that first?
Who knows?
I do love thinking about those sort of things, you know, when you're like, who did that first? And then was like,
Yeah. Where did
this
that
is,
come from? Who had that light bulb moment? Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
But I think you should definitely go if you have time this weekend to pop up there, because it's like it's really cheap as well. So I can't remember how much it was, tenner or something to go up there.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because actually, once the hospital moved away, St Thomas's then relocated, it completely vanished, and that was that. So this I think it opened 1822, the theatre, and then 1862 it moved site. So it completely got closed down, and then it was
Yeah.
completely forgotten about and completely sealed up, and it was only rediscovered by a historian in 1950s who just so happened to be like, oh, what's behind here? Opened it up and just like, and there, that lo and behold, and he was like, there's a full theatre here and this herb garret, and no one knew it was there because it decided to like seal it up, and then no one knew it. And so then I think that was in the 60s. I think it opened in the 60s, maybe 60s, 70s to the public, and now people can go and see it. It's
Oh, I love
fascinating.
that. The amount of things that people then find or are
Yeah.
being rediscovered. It's like, who would have known a few years ago that they would have found Richard III under a car park?
Well, exactly.
Yeah. So what else is round the corner? So
Yeah.
I love all that, but I'm definitely going to try and go and see that because
Yeah, absolutely.
that would be amazing. Can you buy stuff there?
You can. I don't know you can buy a leech though, but you can buy other stuff. But yeah.
Right. I'm all right for a leech, thanks. But God,
Yeah.
I might use them to make my children do things there. I'll leech you if you don't. Yeah. Is that appropriate?
I
Anyway,
don't see why not.
don't see why not.
I think
Yeah.
it's fine.
My granddad's probably used leeches. I'll ask
I
him
bet
as well.
he has. You ask him after this. You go and ask him. I bet he has.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Right. And I don't know how to segue that into Owen's course.
Because Owen will be there in Southwark on Saturday.
Yes. Sorry, that was really good. But we're going to see Dr. Owen on Saturday. I'm sure he's thrilled to know that we're going to be there.
I'm sure.
But yeah, we're very excited. But we've been listening this week to his courses. I've written it down because I always worry about saying it
I
wrong.
always get that. You're normally quite good. Or I always get the names wrong. Don't
Well,
I?
it's usually I've written it down, but yeah, it's Treason in the Tudor Crown. So I've listened to 4. I think you've listened to 3 of the
Listened
6.
to 3 and skimmed a bit of the 4th so far.
It's brilliant. So he's taking each sort of Tudor reign and talking about the different aspects of treason and how he's obviously done a lot of work and thought about how
Yeah.
this works, which is incredible. But how, like, to you and I, you think of treason, you're like someone who's been a bit naughty, but it's so much more than that. The technicalities and the legalities, but also he talks a lot about moral treason and emotional treason and how it fit together and how each king or queen got it to work for them and how it sort of changed in the so obviously he talks first, the first one is on Henry VII, then it's Henry VIII, then it's Edward VI, and then it's Lady Jane Grey, which I've done and you've started. which is the one I was most excited about, and yet to hear Mary the First and Elizabeth the First lectures, and then there's a question and answer tomorrow,
Right.
so that's very exciting.
Yeah.
But how are we feeling about his course? Because I mean, he's brilliant.
Of Mr. Emerson, Dr. Emerson, I should say, because it's brilliant. It really is. And I love the way that he is able to showcase, as you say, the different kings and queens and their different nuances around treason at their particular time of reign. And I mean, just going from Henry VII, I mean, what a canny fellow, honestly, because this little nugget blew my mind how he claimed himself to be king a day before the
Yeah.
Battle of Bosworth, purely so he could say that he was king, so that anyone who fought against him after, he must have been quite confident that he was going to win, win the battle. So anyone who had fought against him was then a traitor and was obviously done for treason. And I just thought that is a clever move, and that basically started that nugget started the whole series, and I was just like, that is very good. I just feel the whole thing of like how it moved from Henry VII, who had to have certain acts to be able to stabilize the situation that the country was in at the time, to then when you look at man baby Henry VIII and what he did, I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's almost boo-hoo Henry VIII, isn't it? Boo-hoo him, because he just wanted some true love and a son. That's all he ever wanted. And you're like, oh, sort yourself out. The more I mean, we've done a lot of talking to about the War of the Roses and Henry VII lately, haven't we? And especially interviewing Lauren Johnson, who we both loved, me reading Alison Weir's book, Owen Emerson's talk. Didn't realise how much I really like Henry VII. He
Oh,
was a good guy. He didn't
yeah.
cheat on his wife, or if he did, he kept it very secret, which was unusual. And he was really respectful. He loved his mum, which is always a
Yes.
plus point.
Yeah.
He brought his wife and children loads of presents. He wasn't the miser that we all thought he
No.
was, depicted to be. And he swooped in and came in and rescued Elizabeth of York and made her his wife. But he made some brilliant decisions, and
Mm.
not just to make himself secure, which was one of his primary reasons, but he recognised that the kingdom needed some security after the War of the Roses and this the king, this not the king, and all the toing and throwing and all the backstabbing that was going on, and brother, turning on
Yeah.
you, and all the rest of it. He actually recognised, look, if I want to do this properly, set my family on the throne, I need to make some savvy choices in
Yeah.
how I deal with people who've betrayed me or people who weren't on my side. He was thinking like 100 steps ahead. He would have
Yes.
been someone you wouldn't want to play chess with,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, he was very good for not wanting, because he didn't want to have the repetition. I mean, they'd been through years and years of turmoil, going from flipping from one to the other, flipping back again, blah blah blah. And it was just like he wanted to gain control. And you're right, he was a complete master in trying to do that.
Yeah. And he doesn't get, I think he's certainly from when I was a kid, he's always been
Yeah.
overshadowed by Henry
Yes.
VIII and the
Yeah.
wives and all the Dallas and Dynasty style dramatics that were going on. But actually, he had a hell of a life before he'd even become king. He's what, 28,
Yes.
29, and he'd already been in exile, and his father had died before he was born. I mean, he had loads of stuff to contend with, didn't know what was going on. And it was only the last couple of years where actually the possibility of him being on the throne was real, or was
Yeah.
in sight. And so Owen talks in his course about how he sort of used treason and the Treason Act that came in and the definition of treason. Because
Mm.
I just thought, I never really gave it much thought about what that
No, I
actually
haven't.
means. So it was been, yeah, he looked at, because he couldn't have gone in and then just like got everyone who fought against him at Bosworth, attain them or have them beheaded or whatever. He had to be clever about it and to keep people on side. And also, um, I I didn't realise this either. It only took a couple of hours, didn't it? The Battle of Bosworth itself. So it was all sort of done and dusted, and then
Yeah.
then the real ruling began, and the trying to make head or tail of what had been going on in the last 2 years with Richard III, that he had to sort out a lot of things.
Yeah.
Also because there were a lot of claimants around as well, he had to think, what's the best way of dealing with them all so that people don't hate me, but I'm stabilizing things, but I'm safe. So, and he also took a lot of time before. He didn't do things straight away. He sat on a few decisions about how
Mm.
was best to proceed. And then there were a couple of examples and case studies that Owen used, which was it one of the Stanleys, wasn't it?
He was instrumental in
In making him king or
making him
supporting
king. Yeah.
him. Oh, it's
Lincoln.
William Stanley, it was, who had supported him and fought for him at Bosworth, and he was executed in 1495 for treason. And it was the words that he used about Perkin Warbeck, about the
Mm.
possibility of him being one of the Lost Prince. So he didn't go against Henry VII, and he didn't go, this is what happened. But Henry was like, I need to get in there quick, nip this in the bud, and make sure no one is saying anything about
Yeah.
Warbeck and who he could be in that. And if I behead this guy, it's not personal, mate, but if I behead him, that is
Yeah.
sending a clear signal that I will not tolerate it, even from my BFFs. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
power move.
Yeah. But he was very good as well at taking which is the pretender that he kept alive for a while and didn't immediately execute him,
It was
so he didn't turn into a martyr.
Perkin Warbeck. Yeah,
Perkin
again,
Warbeck. Yeah.
really, really thought it out and was very clear. Because I think Perkin Warbeck, he was married, wasn't he? He was married to this beautiful woman who
Yeah.
was she a Scottish noble or someone? And even someone that Henry VII respected very much. And so there was almost like a little court sort of gathering around them. But he was obviously not impetuous like his son. He didn't just do things like that. He was thinking of the long game always,
Yeah.
and how best to do it, and how best to use these laws to not only meet his own aims, but to provide stability. Because how people viewed him at the beginning of his reign and how they viewed him at the end, I mean, there was absolutely no problem when he died, his crown going straight to Henry VIII.
No.
Yeah, there were a few other people around, and Henry had a few people to contend with who had claims and stuff, but
But not really. Not real rivals
not how it had
in
been the last
comparison.
couple of years. Yeah, so he was very thoughtful about what he did and how he did it. And yeah, my respect for him
Yeah.
grows all the time in
Yeah.
terms of,
Yeah, me too. He's definitely one of my favourites at the moment.
yeah.
Not his son, as we move on to that one.
No, and I've spent a lot of my life, history wise, being really into Henry VIII, not because I love him, I love everyone around him,
Yeah.
but he was how is he related to Henry VII?
I know.
He seems to be very Edward IV was ish when he died. You get that feeling that he could have potentially have gone that way. He was womanizing,
Uh,
fond of his food. He had once been gorgeous, long, a real hero of the people in his younger days, and then he sort of got too big for his boots and
yeah.
overindulged in more ways than one. And that's what I think of Henry VIII.
Yeah. But it was interesting, I think, what Owen said about how um back in his early reign, because I think he's like saying that there's a myth that, you know, there was a moment it changed and he suddenly turned into,
Yeah,
this tyrant and he ended up being this horrible thing. But actually, he's always been a bit of a brute and had always been like, back in, which I don't think I knew about this, but back in 1517 or something like that, there were the May Day riots, which
yeah,
were ironically, when you look back, when you hear it, you're kind of like, oh, when Owen was explaining it, it was like the people were rioting in London because of Flemish and French workers, and there was unrest because, you know, for economic fear or whatever, xenophobia and whatnot. And the people believed that their livelihoods were being taken by these guys. And I was just like, that sounds awfully familiar. Like, you know, I'm just like, hang on a minute, that sounds not dissimilar to what a lot of people are, a lot of ignorant people are saying now, sort of thing. But yes, but he was like literally cut that down. Like, you know, terror like literally suppressed a lot of these things back in his early reign. So he wasn't always like a nice guy, but then he did obviously kind of like get a little bit worse. And but the thing that obviously just flummoxes me is like how he can, you know, he really wrote his own history. He really believed his own shit. And like, you know, it's just like he's suddenly like, oh, well, no. Oh, well, now I'm the head of church because they won't listen to me and won't give me what I want. So I'm now going to stamp my foot and get what I want. And I'm going to proclaim myself the head of the church. And whatever I say is correct.
And what you
And,
all have to do.
and,
Thank
and
you. Yeah.
it's just like
Thank
on this
you.
divine right, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, no, it's like you appointed yourself. And like, but anyway, and it just makes me laugh because you're just like, so then it moved up, treason then moved on from being, oh, okay, you've done an act or you've said an act or you've like, you clearly are against the
intent, isn't
the
it?
intent is there.
Yeah.
It's gone from being that. It's now about if you don't say, it's all about his conscience. So if you don't agree with him, then you're a treason, then you're treacherous, you're a traitor. And you're like, hang on a minute. Like, and he gives us some very good case studies of John Fisher and Thomas More, who didn't actively say they agreed with him. And so then they got their heads cut off.
Yeah, so he's basically saying, so Thomas More thought he was going to be fine because his stance was, I'm going to be silent. I'm not going to say anything to incriminate myself or get myself in more trouble. And then actually you've got Henry go, no, you have to say, I am the head of the church. And if you don't say it, then you're going to get executed. And he was like, well, I'm not saying anything. I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
still.
Just not saying a thing. I'm not saying yes and I'm not saying no.
Yeah. And people begging him, like, I know his daughter
Yeah.
was like, just say it.
Just say it.
And he was like, no, I'm not going to. And he didn't think he was going to get executed. And so it's almost talking about your personal beliefs. And so your thoughts were then being looked upon. And I commented on the YouTube channel after I saw that one. I did comment on it and said, thank God I wasn't around at the court because you wouldn't have known what to say and do, especially when he was in his flip-flopping mode. And
Yeah.
you don't know if something you say is going to get you looked at and possibly in trouble. And again, that's what happened with Anne Boleyn. She basically sealed her fate when she made some
Joke.
jest
Yeah.
and was saying about, well, if Henry's dead, are you going to want to marry me?
Yeah.
Henry Norris said that too, or someone.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, that's been the word
Used
she
against her.
said as a joke and in
Yeah.
passing, not in a private conversation, was then like, you wanted Henry dead, so you must
Yeah.
be a witch and we'll have to
And
execute.
yeah. Crazy. And the worst thing was the Treason Act of 1534 was part of that Treason Act was put in place to protect her, to sort of like say, no, you will basically respect the Queen and her heirs, and basically you will say nothing against it, and you will treat her as she is the rightful Queen, and otherwise I'll chop your head off.
Yeah.
They've done an act for her, and then they're using it against her to chop her own head off. Crazy.
And the
stuff.
person, one of the people who was writing those laws is poor old Thomas Cromwell,
Tom
who
Crom.
then had that shoved down his throat.
Yeah.
A few months later, a couple of years later, and he changes tact. Instead of saying, I'm going to keep stum and not say anything, at the end of his life, like he's literally writing a letter to Henry saying, I am begging you to forgive me. I'll say whatever you want. Don't do this. And so you can almost see people who are learning the lesson of what happened before and then trying to navigate these treasonous laws and legalities and trying to sort of win or get themselves back in favour. But it's almost like the laws are one step forward, aren't they, ahead of them?
Yeah.
So all these people who were supporting Henry are then caught out. Like, I mean, Thomas More he'd known since he was a boy. Thomas Cromwell was the person he relied on most. Anne Boleyn was the saviour and going to provide him with the son. And he spent 7 years courting just to get a shag, and
Yeah.
a son. And
Yeah.
then all these people are like the number one people who fall from grace and end up with no head or no body.
He just is, a nut job.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say. Do you know what he reminds me of a little bit? You know, I just said he's a man baby because, but there are traits that when you research and read more history and stuff like that of him that I align to Trump as well. I'm just going to say that. I know we should be political on this channel, but I do. Do you know what I mean? Trump kind of displays some of this stuff. Oh, I'm not getting my way. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, and it's exactly what Henry VIII did. I'm not getting my way, so I'm going to go and change the rules or change
Yeah.
the law or
Or
kill someone.
changes the narrative to suit himself.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
100%.
actually, I want to come in and save Europe, and they need me, and they want me to be their leader.
Yeah.
That was Henry VIII, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, the Pope's not doing anything for you
Yeah.
British people or English
I'll do
people.
it.
I'll be the head. And then on his deathbed, didn't he recant and be a Catholic again before he died? I mean,
Zootelaw. I know.
then we went on to Edward, and I
Yes.
mean, Edward the Sixth is the person I know about least, I guess, out of the Tudors. Not because he was inconsequential, but it didn't last very
Didn't
long.
last long. Sickly child. Didn't add anything. Hasn't really added anything, did he? Bless his heart.
Except for getting rid of both his uncles, which is
Well, now that was
or
a wise move, to be fair. Although was that really him? But yeah. But Thomas
yeah,
Seymour set himself up. I'm sorry.
what a
What a
prat.
knob.
Yeah, absolute. Like, did he really think he was gonna marry Elizabeth, then become king, or be BFFs with his nephew? I mean, it's sad because he was 15 when he died, and you think what? Because that was sort of the age when what was considered the majority of his age. So he was about to have come into his own.
Yeah, yeah.
What would he have been like? I mean, he was extremely pious, from what I
Yeah,
gather.
yeah. Yeah.
And I get the feeling, though, there was a big Henry VIII streak in him if he hadn't have got his own way. And it's another what if, isn't it? I mean, which
Yeah.
we love to talk about, but what if he hadn't died?
Yeah.
How would it have gone? What would have happened? I think Mary would have been an old maid and kept away. I think he would have married Elizabeth off to suit himself.
Hmm.
And I think both his uncles would have fallen anyway. He would have got rid of Thomas,
Eventually.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think Edward, he would have fallen out with at some point as well, and he probably would have gone the same way. But how would he have dealt with, like, Northumberland and the Dudleys? That would have been very, very interesting.
Would have
And,
been.
you know, with the fact that if he hadn't married himself, the Grey girls, Jane and her sisters, had been either given into marriage who Edward wanted or whoever they married, where would that have gone? We wouldn't have who we've got on the throne
No.
afterwards. So that was quite interesting to think about. Owen talks about sort of stepping it back.
Reining it back in again, making sure it's
Yeah.
like, and they repealed it, didn't they? Because I think he did another Treason Act and they basically repealed everything his dad did because they were like, hang on a minute, that's cuckoo. Let's not have that.
Yes. And it's all about, again, the council members and all vying
Yeah.
for, being the best friend of Edward and
I
stuff.
do have to I do have to question though, because it wasn't that there wasn't that much time between. So what was Thomas thinking, Thomas Seymour thinking? But obviously his nose was put well out of joint because he wasn't Lord Protector and obviously his brother was. So, his nose completely, because he's a bit petulant, is our Thomas, and, a bit annoying. So it wasn't that long ago that actually his actions that he did to get around or get near to Edward, trying to be his best friend, going to him direct, being, trying to influence him, trying to buy him, being very generous and charismatic and this, that, and the other. All of that stuff would have been his absolute downfall a couple of years before with Henry's ruling sort of thing,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of like, how you had the confidence, or what is it, confidence or naivety, or is it him being a narcissist and thinking, oh, I can do whatever I want, and then he went and did it, and then obviously got his head chopped off because they were like, you've overstepped your mark, mate, you're treason. Yeah,
I think if there's any byline for overstepping, it is Thomas Seymour. I mean, he was Henry VIII's eyes, he's straight in there with the widow, Catherine
Yeah.
Parr, yeah. I mean, they were married within a couple of months of Henry VIII dying, and then he's
Yeah.
got Lady Jane Grey as a
Yeah.
ward living there,
Yeah.
and the Princess Elizabeth living there, and he's literally like, "Look at me, I'm in the power, I'm in the hot seat, I'm the favourite uncle of Edward, who's the king
Yeah.
now." What I find interesting is that him and his brother never, if they had teamed up, they could have been pretty formidable.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had
Yeah.
got on, like, they were obviously polar opposites. They could have actually have held England in the palm of their hands,
Yeah, I think
because
you're
if
right.
one reigned in the other, they could have been a powerful combination. Again, really interesting to think about, because were always falling out and at different ends of the spectrum. Like Edward, I think he was like, "Here's some rope, Thomas, hang yourself," and he did. He did. And I think the more surprising downfall is Edward, really, and that was mainly because he came up against a formidable opponent in, because it's not really about Edward at all, is it? Really, all the stuff
No.
that happened to Edward and his reign, apart from this very tragic, "I know I'm dying, so I'm going to write a will and hope get everyone to that they do it," and you're like, no, that's not going to work. The one thing I don't get is everyone talks about Henry VIII had his own laws for the succession written in
Yeah.
stone.
Yeah.
So why didn't Edward get something written in
I
stone? Is it
know.
because they ran out of time and he was
Well,
because
I don't know. I don't know that actually, because the council were against his thoughts on where it should go.
Hmm.
But because because he was so staunchly Protestant and Mary was so staunchly Catholic, I mean, I guess that must be. But I don't know why. Yeah, don't
Because
know
you're
why.
like, yeah, it wasn't lawful, but you're like, but he was the king, so surely he would just get it through and make it lawful,
You would,
like Henry
yeah,
did. So I'm
yeah.
guessing it's because he was so in his minority. So
I
that's a
guess
question
so.
I want to
Yeah,
ask Owen about.
yeah.
Yeah, you just think if he'd only had a few more months even,
Mm,
things could have been very different. And
yeah,
also I think, again, we look at it from hindsight, and we've talked about this before, Mary the First doesn't have a brilliant reputation.
no,
Whereas I really like Mary. I think she did make some wrong decisions and stuff, but I remember reading something about Mary at first and how, like in Spain, because she was obviously married to Philip,
mm,
they love her over there, and there's statues of her all around Spain. There's not
uh,
any statues of her here in the UK.
yeah, no,
And I do feel for her, and again, a really lonely, tragic figure.
yeah,
But when you then listen to this lecture and the next one about Lady Jane Grey, and it reminded me of how popular Mary the First was. I mean, she was
yes,
Catherine of Aragon, who was very popular, her daughter. So everyone assumed that it was going to be Mary, like all the everyday people. The council didn't like the idea of Jane, poor old Jane. And it was she took back the crown and gained it for herself, Mary, very quickly, very straightforwardly. It didn't take much at all.
but quite strategically as well,
Yeah, she
and
was
quite
in there.
clever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but it is, I mean, poor Jane didn't have a clue, didn't even know she was in the bloody running. She only just got told. That's why there's always a discrepancy, isn't there, between whether or not she was queen for 13 days or 9 days,
Yeah.
because
Well,
she
because she was
she
free for 4 days before she was told.
she even knew about it. Like, she had no clue. But, like, when she was then proclaimed queen or whatever, and there was, like, I think Owen says it, there was no celebrations or anything like that. But as soon as Mary was proclaimed queen, like, everyone was in the streets
Going nuts.
celebrating, which was an interesting telling thing, isn't it?
Yeah, he says about they proclaim Jane and, like, everyone is silent,
Yeah.
which makes me think of Shooting Stars when they used to tell jokes and the hay bales would roll across and
Yeah.
stuff. It's all
Yeah.
silent. It's that sort of thing. And you
Yeah.
think, God, and a lot of people didn't even know who she was
No.
because she's not, wasn't that
Yeah.
prominent a person. And I mean, this is the one thing I find fascinating, because her mother, Frances, if
Yeah.
you were going by the logic of that family, that branch being um, king or queen, it would
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
Frances. But she was obviously like, I'm not getting involved
I'm
in
not
this.
doing
I
that.
quite like Mary, my cousin. And she let in, and she lets Jane sort of go into it. I mean, I don't know how I feel about all that. It's completely mad. But again, going back to the point of the lectures and treason and how it was working for the
Yeah.
monarch. So it was all about the fact that she she didn't intentfully take the crown. So
No.
yes, she took it as an act of obedience to her parents, which was very much the thing for young people. You did what your mum and dad told you to do. Take notice, my children. Um, it was very much obedience. So she obediently took the crown because her father-in-law and her parents said, this is what you got to do. This was
Yeah.
the king's will. And
She
she accepted.
accepted the crown. She never went for the crown.
So, and Owen goes on to say later on, because the treason law doesn't care about the ifs and whys and buts.
No.
The black and white fact is that she accepted the crown for whatever the intention and why she did it, and she was guilty of that. And she pled guilty later on
Yeah.
when she was at her trial, and she wrote letters to Mary saying, yes, I'm sorry, I did take the crown and I accepted it. I didn't want to, but I
Yeah.
thought it was my duty and I thought I had to. And so I am guilty of doing that. And I mean, it's so sad anyway. I mean, she's executed not even because of that in the end. It's with the Wyatt's rebellion. And Mary was like, I have to get rid of her because she is
Yeah.
the figurehead. She
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
even involved in that plot.
No.
And she was just totally used by those around her in her name. And
Yeah.
that is what's so sad. But it was all, the law was black and white, and there wasn't there's nothing around that. And that's what's so telling, isn't it? Because it could have been so different.
Yeah.
What I mean, she was in a rock and a hard place. What's she going to do? No, mum and dad, I don't want to be the queen. And the only thing she seemed to do that she really wanted to do was refuse Guildford to be the king.
Yes. Good for
No,
her. No, you're
yeah,
not. Sorry, you can ask all you like, but you're not being king. No.
I'll make you duke,
Yeah.
but not a king.
No.
It's not for you. Yeah.
No.
I mean, all accounts was that he was not the brightest spark, and he was again a pawn of his dad. This is what I don't understand. What was I've forgotten what her dad's called, Mr. Grey. Duke of Suffolk? So what's the Duke of Suffolk and Northumberland? What they do? They just don't care about their children. They just because they had that mass wedding, didn't they? Where Jane married Guildford, Catherine married
Yeah.
Henry no,
Hastings.
Henry Hastings, and then Northumberland's daughter married someone else. And you're like, can you imagine that wedding, that
I
triple
know.
wedding? That would have been
But
fun.
but
Nine
then,
kings up there.
and then just left her. Just completely abandoned her. Like when, well, hang on, this isn't quite going the right way. See you later.
Making a sharp exit. Yeah, she's all alone. Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on about Lady Jane Grey. It's just so sad. So I'm excited that the next lecture I get to listen to is about Mary, because
Yeah.
again, she's a bit of a favourite. I do have a soft spot for Mary the First, definitely. And then of course Elizabeth,
Yeah.
who is just a formidable woman in any right, isn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward to the next two lectures, which I'm going to listen to later on today before
Yeah.
Owen's tomorrow
Q&A.
talks in the Q&A. So I've already got a few questions of you. Yes. But anyway, we were going to look at some books because you've got a new book, haven't you?
I've got a new book. I have got a new book. Here is my new book. Black Tudors.
That Miranda Kaufmann.
Miranda Kaufmann. I'm very interested to read it, actually. It says, my friend, we'll talk about this another stage, my friend David Olusoga is on the front cover, saying it's cutting edge, accessibly written and alive with human details and warmth. Basically, inside it has it is a chapter about a person of colour in the untold story of the Tudor era. So you've got a John Bank, who was a trumpeter. You've got Henry VIII commissioned a guy called Jacques Francis, who was a salvage diver, to go and dive the Mary Rose when it sank.
Amazing.
So, do you know what I mean? Like all these, there's a Mary Phyllis, who was a Moroccan convert. John Anthony was the mariner of Dover. Anne Kobe was the tawny Moor with soft skin, apparently. Yeah, so loads of interesting characters and real people, not characters, real people, I have to say. And so I'm really excited to read that. So I will do a
Yeah,
review once it's done.
really good. Yes. I've got a new book as well.
What have you got?
I've got
Uh,
Accounting for Anne.
I actually cannot wait to read this. I've got
Yes.
this waiting on my Kindle.
James Taffe, The Tudor Queen Who Could Have Been, and it's discovering about her through her accounts.
Mm,
And I know from when we spoke to our friend Lauren Johnson, when she wrote her book on Margaret Beaufort recently, she so much information that she got from her accounts, and because they were meticulously done. But what I love is that he's included lots of proper looking at all of the her accounts and her writing and stuff. So this is going to be really intriguing. And I got the book as well because I love this picture.
I think I might have to get the book actually.
Yeah, I love this painting of Anne of Cleves. I just
Yeah.
absolutely love it. It's just such a
She's, I
love.
know, and we've said it before, she's my firm favourite on the old Six Wives at the
Yeah,
moment.
I mean I don't know. I don't know who my favourite wife is, but I've always really liked her. And she's the one who she
Yeah,
sort of is the one who won, I
she
always think.
survived. 100%,
He
yeah.
survived Henry and their marriage, but and where is the how is she minging? She's
I
not, is
know!
she? She's
Yeah.
gorgeous. She's a gorgeous lady. Yeah, so I'm really excited to read this. And the fact that she not only did she survive Henry, but he was nice to her and
Yeah,
liked her and called her like his sister, which is a bit
sister.
weird.
Put her
Yeah.
to for Christmas every year.
Yeah. And she had quite a good relationship, I think, with Elizabeth and Mary.
Yeah, she did.
So yeah,
And
so
lived at Hever Castle. I mean,
and yeah,
result.
yeah, he must have liked her if he got that. So yeah, so this is sort of deciphering her accounts and what she spent her money on and things. So I'm
And I
really interested
that
in
is really interesting, yeah. I think I am going to buy the hard copy so I can look at that properly because otherwise you're
yeah,
not gonna see it on a Kindle. But I think Dr. Owen Emmerson actually mentioned that he had read it and he really liked it.
yes. Yes. So I'm definitely going to like it. So James, if you're out there and you'd like to come and talk to us, we'd
Yes.
love that. So
We would
I'll make
love that.
you might like to come talk to us because I'm always intrigued as well. Where do you start? If you're gonna
Yeah.
write a book, I'm guessing at the beginning of the account books, but also deciphering them because these are not easy to look at. So yeah, so obviously piece of work that would have been a real uh power of love to get through. So very excited about that. Yeah, just again, lots of books,
Not enough
not
time.
nothing. Yes. Which leads me to I'll just quickly mention the film Nuremberg,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
which is
I haven't seen that yet, so I need
you haven't
to so
seen
let
it.
tell us and dear viewers what your opinion is of Nuremberg.
Okay. So I mean it doesn't matter about the spoilers because you all know what happens. But
Everyone knows what
obviously,
happens.
Nuremberg set to what I thought was going to talk about the Nuremberg trials that happened in Germany after the war with the war criminals. It was mainly about Göring, who, let's be honest, is such a character, an awful person, but played by Russell Crowe. And he was brilliant,
What was he?
absolutely brilliant as Hermann Göring. And I would imagine, yeah, sort of did how I imagined. But the film was very much about Goering and one of the psychologists who was like looking after them all whilst they were awaiting trial. There was 22 of them, but they didn't really talk about. They mentioned a couple of the other Nazis who was standing trial, but they didn't mention Albert Speer. They mentioned Hess a little bit and Julius Streicher, but they didn't really talk about all of them.
Mm. Mm.
I've read quite a few books about Nuremberg, and there is some brilliant books out there. And there is, I'll put the link in this. There is a very hard wearing book which is very descriptive about the entire trial, which went on for months, but also the makeup before, like where it was going to be, the fact that crimes against humanity and war crimes, they weren't really even defined. They weren't actually in existence till this trial, and also about how the trial itself was made up and who was going to be in charge of it, the Americans, the Russians, the English, the French.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of stuff that went on before they even started the
Got
trial.
to it. Okay.
who were going to be the judges, who was going to be witnesses, which country was going to speak to which person, and all the rest of it. And so they touched upon that. Obviously, they cut in a hour and 50-minute film. You can't get all
Is
of
that
that
all
in.
it is?
Think so. It's only, about less than 2 hours. But what I found off-putting, I mean, I thought the film generally, as a piece of entertainment, was good. There is some historical stuff in there that people will be like, oh, that's really interesting.
Mm.
But what pisses me off, as usual, is that they have all these stupid little things that don't need to be in there. So they have Rami Malek, who is an amazing Freddie Mercury. Like, he was like on one. He was just like a hyperactive child throughout the whole film, doing magic tricks on a train and trying to impress people and stuff. Like, was, yeah, a little bit obsessive with talking to all the Nazis and stuff, which I imagine probably happened, or at least, but I thought he would have been more professional. He's portrayed as really unprofessional, and he's sneaking off meeting Mrs. Göring and his daughter and sneaking back letters between them. And again, it's the same old thing I say. You don't need to make things more dramatic. They're dramatic enough. You
Yeah.
don't need all of that. And the conversations he had with Hermann Goering and how he saved his life at some point. I don't know if that happened, but basically Hermann Goering was talking in German and Rami Malek's like, I know he can speak English. I can tell. I know he's lying and he'll have to trust me. Like, we don't need all that dramatic shit. And then Hermann Goering almost has a heart attack or something, and Rami Malek saves him, and then Hermann Goering goes, thank you. And he's like, I know that you could speak English. So it's all that. And you're like, we don't need to waste time with that.
I'm
Let's
on
get
that. Yeah,
the
yeah.
stuff. Obviously, so I cried because obviously it's film
You
and
always
that's
do.
funny. And so they show, and what I always think is poignant in all the books I've read about this, is that is when Goering realised that he was in some deep shit. Because he thought, I'm the second highest ranking German. And when he's first arrested, he's like, well, can't I have a nice mansion and, have a bit of house arrest? And they're like, no, you're in serious shit. You might be executed. And he was like, oh. And then they sat down in the trial, and then I don't know how long it was in, but he was quite petulant, and he was always trying to make speeches and talk about his rights and stuff, and kept being shot down. And then they put together a film of the concentration camps, and they showed it. And of course, it was a lot of this was being filmed anyway for the world to see or put on the
Yeah.
radio. And it was probably the first time people realised the extent of how awful the Holocaust was and what concentration camps were actually doing. And they have videos, they have proof. You see, Hermann Goering puts his shades on so you can't read his expression. And then it's almost, that is the telling time when he's like, shit,
Yeah.
I've pretend that I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
And that's such a poignant moment in history when people realize they're going to have to be held accountable for these
Yeah.
things. And I thought that was good, and they show that. And of course, it's awful. I'm guessing they showed real bits of the actual footage, so that was very good. But it's all those things speak for themselves. You don't need to make it more dramatic with
Yeah.
messing about. But yeah, I did think it was a good watch. And my husband was saying, the thing is, Hollywood, that's what they do. They make
Yeah.
things more sensational because they're trying to sell it to people who aren't as interested in history as
Yeah.
like us. So there
Yeah.
are gonna be people who will then watch that and learn something that they didn't know. Whereas me doing well, that didn't happen like that, which I know really pisses him off. But to me, that's important. And that's why I would rather read a factual book or
Yeah.
biography about these things. But I did think Russell Crowe was an inspired Hermann Goering. I just wish that I thought it was going to be more about the whole trial and all of the Nazis that were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other guy who's in it, who's an English actor, but he plays a German boy. The guy who's in,
Leo,
yes.
someone?
Yeah.
Sandal, something.
Yeah. He was really good. He was very good.
He's
And
very good, actually, isn't
yeah,
he?
he plays, and he doesn't go OTT, he just
Yeah.
plays it calmly, and he was a real life person, he's a real character, and yeah, I cared about his character. Rami Malek, I was like, "Whatever, you're just
Yeah.
annoying." And, you know, it must have been hard because there was Colin Hanks comes in and plays the other,
Oh, does he?
psychologist. It's not a main part, but he comes in and talks, and I've read stuff about him as well. Gilbert, you just think, I mean, again, we're looking at knowing what we know now, but at the time, psychology is still much, a learning curve for people, and a lot of people who don't believe in psychology as a mental illness and mental impacts as sort of part of the human life. So you have a lot of that's quite interesting, knowing all those sort of things and how people got it. So they've got the ink test, and it's like
Yeah.
um, I can't remember what they're called when they're like, what do you see when
What
you've
can
got
you
the
see
ink
in it?
blot?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then one of them is like a vagina, and you're like, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
probably happened. But yeah, it's quite interesting. And the other thing I think is interesting is, so one of the Nazis who was on trial, he commits suicide before they start the trial. And of course, the Americans holding them in their cells, their job is to get them to trial because people want to see them on trial and
Mm.
be held accountable. And of course, that's the one thing they don't want them to do, is to kill themselves. It's yeah, those sort of glimpses are what I find interesting and great in the film. I don't like all the big Hollywood
Yeah.
they pump it up with, but I appreciate that's a place. So I would say I wouldn't rush out to watch it, but it is something to watch, definitely.
Out of 10, what would you give it?
Maybe a 5. I know
Okay.
that sounds a bit mean, and that's me being quite pompous, I think.
No, that's fair enough. I appreciate that score because I think I would be the same as you. I don't want to see the fluff of it. I want to
Yeah,
see the accuracy and I want to see it represented properly. And if it doesn't do that, then it's not a high score in my book.
exactly. But Russell Crowe is brilliant. Uh,
I
he
will watch it then, but I just won't
so
rush out
yeah.
to watch it.
Yeah, but so I'd be interested in what other people think, and especially you, because I think, yeah, you'll probably feel similar to me.
Yeah.
But if it is the way in which people then become interested in this
Yeah.
topic, interested in history, then I'm much more for it, and my score would be a
Yeah.
bit higher.
Yeah.
So yes, it's yeah, it was good, but
Hmm.
not brilliant.
No. Well, I was meant to go and see Hamnet and I didn't go in the end. So I'm hoping maybe I actually don't know when I'm going to fit it in, but yeah, I need to
I
go and
don't
see that.
know. I
But
don't
I've
know.
heard mixed reviews on that. Some people say they absolutely love it, and some people are saying certain actors or characters are too over the top for what they should be. So I'll be interested to see for myself.
Well, because I love Jessie.
Buckley.
I love Jessie Buckley. I love her, love her, love her. She also has songs on Spotify. She does a lot of music.
Well,
She
do you remember her from Days of Yore when she was in the Find Nancy campaign? Did you ever
I
watch
never
that?
watched it, but I
Mm, I
I
did.
do remember the show, and when I
Yeah,
saw a photo of her, I did remember her. But
yeah.
because
I used to love it.
she's in Taboo. Have you seen that? With
No.
Tom Hardy. It's on Netflix, guys.
Yes, no, I have seen that. Yes,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
lying. I have seen that. Yes.
She's his stepmother. She's
Yeah.
brilliant in that.
Yeah.
And she was it War and Peace? I think
Yes,
she's
she was.
yeah,
Yes.
she's
I really
always
wanted to watch
brilliant.
that again this Christmas. I
Yeah.
felt like it's a Christmas thing for me to watch. And I suggested watching it and I got poo-pooed. And I was just like, well, actually, husband's away this week, so I may watch that if I can stay
Definitely
awake
watch
and
that.
watch
I
that.
love
I love it.
because Jack Lowden, I think, is in that, who I love. Who is
Who?
Jack Lowden? He plays Lord Darnley in the Mary Queen of Scots film with Saoirse Ronan, and
Oh
they're
god, I
married
need
in
to watch
Dubai.
that again, you know.
He is lovely. He's in what's it called with Gary Oldman on Apple TV?
I know who you mean. Slow
Something dog
horses.
dogs.
Yeah.
Slow horses, yeah. Big fan of him. He was he in Dunkirk as well? Yeah,
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
he's always in brilliant things, but he was in War and Peace as well. So
Mm.
I might go and watch
I
that
might
if I
watch that.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway. Anywho, but
Yeah, I've talked for long enough. You've never talked for long enough, but you probably need to go and get a cup of tea, don't you?
do need to get a cup of tea. I need to go out as well.
Oh, of course you do, sorry.
What we're going to do is take dear viewers along next time you hear from us, our next episode, because Kelley, you're coming to Frome and we're going to go and to a talk about witchcraft. Can't remember the title of it. Something about witchcraft and
Women in Witchcraft, I think.
what's it called?
Women in
Oh,
Witchcraft?
is it? Yes, I think it is. Yeah, you're right.
Like that, yeah, something exciting. It's a sea talk. Um, So we are, and which happens to be in Frome, so it
Happens
would
to be
be
in Frooms.
rude for us not to
Not to
meet up
go.
and go.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and then we'll see, and then we'll take you along for to Southwark Cathedral next week as well, when we go to our tour. So you'll hear all about it and hear our nonsense rambling
And
after we've
bragging.
done that. And
And bragging
bragging. And
what
new best
photos we
friends.
get, yeah, with our new best friends.
Yeah.
And we get to see each other in the flesh, so
I
I'm
know.
looking forward to seeing you,
Perfect.
my lovely.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yes. But have a good week otherwise.
Take care. See you later.
Bye.